All right, we are live. Welcome back to the Live with Sondra show, where we dive into inspiring conversations and real connections at the intersection of leadership, innovation, and the business of attractions. And today, I'm really excited about this show. I just actually told our guest, I'm like, I might be a little nervous today because this is somebody that I've watched for many years and their career, and they've been an inspiration to so many of us. And yeah, I'm excited for you to hear who's coming on the show. But before we get started, let me just give you a word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Gatemaster Technology, the original attractions innovators behind cashless systems, and now in the industry leaders in food and beverage, point of sale, and integrated mobile ordering. Imagine this. Your guests are relaxing in their cabana or lounge chair, ordering burgers, drinks, desserts right from their phone. And with Gatemaster's mobile ordering, they can browse the full menu, place an order, get notified by text when they're ready, when their order is ready for pickup or delivery. There's no lines, no hassle. I'm also going to add no hangry kids, just more time to enjoy the venue. I always say that because you guys know I talk about my hangry kids in line at the water parks all the time. Our mobile ordering delivers, our mobile ordering system has been proven to increase revenue by 20 to 40% because guests can spend more time with your menu and less time waiting in line. And it's not just about convenience. Gatemaster gives you everything you need to run a smooth operation, full back of house management, tracking for efficient pickup and delivery, seamless tipping and tabbing, real time text notifications for your guests, and yes, our original cashless system is fully integrated. It's all part of delivering a modern, connected guest first experience, one that keeps people coming back. So if you are ready to upgrade your food and beverage service, visit gatemaster.com to learn how to make your operation faster, smarter, and more profitable. Gatemaster is leading the way in cashless convenience and next gen guest service. So before I introduce you to today's guest, let me ask you our question of the day. What is one innovative food and beverage idea that you've implemented or seen that has significantly boosted guest engagement or revenue at your attraction? Let us know in the comments, and we'd love to hear your thoughts. Today's guest is a powerhouse in the attractions industry and someone who truly embodies what it means to lead with purpose. Ken Whiting is the president and CEO of Whiting Foods, where he oversees all food and beverage operations at the iconic Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk. But that's just the beginning. With over 40 years of experience in the industry, Ken has helped shape revenue strategies for attractions across the globe. He served as the 2022 chair of the board for IAAPA, the Global Association for the Attractions Industry, and continues to be a guiding force in its future. Ken also is the author of Waves for Teenage Workforce Success, a powerful book that has been adopted by hundreds of businesses to help elevate and empower young workers. He's deeply passionate about developing the next generation of talent, and he walks the talk. Oh, and I heard this one, and I was like, this guy is something. He is not only leading teams when he's not leading teams or creating an innovative guest experience, he's likely lacing up his running shoes. Ken has completed over 70 marathons and triathlons. Yes, 70. Wow. That's an accomplishment right there. So if you're ever curious about food trends, teen workforce culture, or what the future of attraction industries looks like on a global scale, you are in for a treat. So without further ado, please help me welcome Ken to the show. Ken, welcome to the Live with Sondra show.
Hey, Sondra, thank you for having me. And I need you to give all my introductions. That was incredible.
Oh, well,
Uh,
I am
uh,
honored to have you
uh,
here. I meant what I said. Like, this is when I started building this show, and we started having guests. I tried to start thinking about ways that I could create a platform where I could have people like you, advocates for this industry, people who've done so much for all of us. And I truly think that everything that we said is, and that I've said, I truly mean from my heart, because I know we don't know each other that well. I'm hoping to get to
Yeah,
know you better
yeah.
today and throughout this show, but also I've been able to watch your career over the years that I've been in the industry.
Well, it's well, you said I run marathons. Being in the industry has been a marathon for me, not, not a sprint. Because if I have anything, I have a lot of years um, behind me now, much more behind me than I have in front. But as we were chatting earlier, you said, "Boy, don't we have the best jobs ever?" And this is an industry that really, the attractions industry, that just puts us next to people and places that come together with a common bond and are willing to share and to get to know each other. And I couldn't be any happier and more proud of where I've spent my professional life for sure. And
Well, one thing I've always wanted to ask you, if it's okay, is just how you got started, because I don't
yeah,
think I know
let
that part of your story.
well let me, yeah, it might be helpful just to maybe try to give a quick version of why I'm sitting where I'm at. And I am sitting at the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk right now. And I will just say, as a small disclaimer or edit, you had noted that I operate all the food and beverage. Our company does operate a lot of the food and beverage here, but honestly, not 100%. But combined, we just have a tremendous growing food and beverage program here at the park. I got my start, one family business. From my father's standpoint, we've operated right here in Santa Cruz for over 70 years. So for a very long time. And my first job was, I don't know, maybe I was 10 years old, and I was peeling bananas for the chocolate dip bananas that we sold then and still sell today. And from there, just worked every role and every opportunity there was, every job that I had to do, some that I didn't want to do, probably I still had to do them, and
Sure.
in full family business style. Um, but then when I became a young adult and there was a full-time position, a need for one of us in the family to be full-time at that time, I said yes. And I think that my own nature is one of not wanting to operate in a vacuum. And at that particular time, it just seemed like we would talk about what other people did, and we couldn't do that because this is how we do it, and that's all good. But I just started to reach out, honestly, to primarily in California, to other parks and just asking them, like, hey, I visited at Knott's Berry Farm and I saw you were doing this item, and what can you tell me about it? And who do you buy it from? And all those kinds of things. And I instantly learned that, well, it was like, hey, Ken, why don't you just come on down? And the next time you're here, check in with me and I'll show you around. And people just were so welcoming and helpful and encouraging. And I found that with anybody I just called out of the blue. And so after a couple of years of that, I, I I just was, I mean, I was all in on this industry at a very young age then. I was attending IAAPA. My first one was in 1979, I think, and going to the education sessions and learning plenty, and meeting others from our industry that were sitting in the room. And same thing was happening. And these people became friends. They shared information, and I was loving it. And I walked into during one of the expos. I just walked into the education office and asked how I could help out and volunteer. And they connected me to, at the time, a gentleman that was the chair of the Food and Beverage Committee, who welcomed me in. And man, back then I mean, we were small. I didn't know anything, and I was hanging out with the big boys back then, and it was very intimidating. But at the same time, I learned that they were sincere and honest and transparent, and helped this young kid along in a crazy way. And so I just never looked back from raising my hand to be a volunteer at IAAPA and within our industry on a lot of fronts that I could go on and on about that, but I've done a lot of things with a lot of bringing people together within the industry and hung in there with IAAPA, never, ever, ever imagining that I'd be a board member, I'd be an officer, and there's not a chance on earth I'd ever chair this organization, never even thought about it. But that's what happened. And so I've been a blessed man as it relates to where I've spent my time and the people I've gotten to meet and the things I've gotten to know, and maybe along the way been able to help a couple folks myself. So um, that's what I do. And
Hey,
with a background being food and beverage, but I've learned so much more. Almost, Sondra, perhaps like you, in terms of you know you have a technology solution, but you have to know every discipline and every area to really add value and to serve the needs of your clients. And so I've had the good fortune of having a pretty broad background.
yeah, I mean, I think I always think it's so interesting how people get started. And what I loved about what
Yeah,
she said is it started with family.
yeah,
Which is something that's really important to us at Gatemaster because we're also a family business, but also something that I think you see time and time again in the industry. And one of the things that I really love is families thrive. You know, one of my families can really thrive in this industry. One of my mentors always says, "When the business isn't okay, the family's not okay," right? And in
yeah.
this industry,
That's
it's the truth because so many of us are family owned and operated institutions. And so I love that that's how you guys got started and that you have this long history of being a family business, but also you've just taken this to the next level with what you've done and being a part of that. And I certainly share that sentiment of going to IAPA and
yeah.
feeling intimidated. I remember, I think my first IAPA was like 1999, and I was working for QZAR at the time. Actually, I don't know if you know this about me. I used to run the QZAR laser tag in Santa
Okay.
Clarita, California.
Oh, okay.
That was my start in
Okay.
the industry.
I have
And
I have a sister-in-law that lives there. How's that?
oh,
So
nice,
yeah.
nice. Yeah, my family, a lot of my family's still there.
Okay.
But the but yeah, being out there and then going to IAPA and really being somewhat intimidated by all of these things that you have to learn about this industry to
Yeah.
truly understand the entirety of what our guests experience, how to keep them safe, and you know how to feed them, which is what I think is really I'm really excited to talk to you about today because I know that that's something that you've helped so many parks understand that food is part of the experience and
Absolutely.
it can make or break the experience, right? Like it's
It it's become such a growing uh, strategic element of the visit anymore. It's become an attraction in itself many times, for sure. But it's definitely a significant revenue driver for any property of any size or type. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one thing that is interesting about food. So I had a social influencer. She just travels around the United States to different attractions eating their food. And I don't know if she's been. I know she was waiting
Wow.
to go to Epic to the new steakhouse,
Yeah.
Epic Universe,
Yeah. I
and
haven't been yet. Yeah.
I haven't been yet either, but I know she's gonna cover it because she literally like she's traveled to every Disney across the globe and all the various parks and just tries their food and blogs about it and does her journey about it. But I think that's something that is interesting compared to how it used to be in our industry. You know, food was just there to keep people fed and
Mhm.
hydrated. But now, you know, you've got influencers like her today who are visiting our parks and actually showcasing what we're either doing really well or maybe where we have room for improvement, which is why I am curious if you could tell us, you know, with what you do and what you've
Yeah.
advocated for with food being a part of the attraction, beyond what's happening at Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk, can you share some examples of maybe attractions that have truly excel at what they're doing
Yeah,
with.
sure, sure. At first, I'll just say I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. One, I'll say it is not a one size fits all formula, meaning that you mentioned Epic Universe. You got these giant destination theme parks where guests are there for 3 days and then the parks for 12 to 15 hours a day. Um, the expectations and needs there are far different than the trampoline park or the laser tag arena,
Sure.
where I'm drawing a local clientele, right, that drives by all the chain restaurants and all the local places on their way in and out, and I'm only on site for an hour, 2 hours, whatever it might be. So it's way different. However, with all that said, the food and beverage tends to be the second revenue source for most attractions that fall within that range of properties. I know right here in Santa Cruz, we've done so much in recent years of advancing the food and beverage and looking at everything that's available and adding what's new um, or making what we already do better. In fact, I'm just going to share this. This isn't to be about us or about me. I just want to share this because this just came out the other day in a local. We had a local influencer down and do the food and beverage tour of the park, and her headline is "From Butter Chicken to Brisket." A guide to the Santa Cruz Beach Boardwalk's food scene, and so it's incredible the amount of items we sell here that we never used to sell. And that really echoes what has occurred around the industry. I've been at it long enough now. We're in the mid 80s. I was in a group with a group of food and beverage operators, and one of them talked about how they tried bottled water, and it actually sold a little bit. And I was there going, not a chance on earth bottled water is ever going to be sold in our industry or anywhere. Who on earth would buy bottled water? We have drinking fountains, for crying out loud. So there's been an evolution, right?
Sure.
And burgers speed used to be such a huge value. You got to get the food out as fast as you can, and you just loaded that hot hold or the chute with your burgers and your hot dogs, and so you could just kind of get them out. Well, today it's not that way, right? Or it's opportunistic if it's not that way. If you are grilling out in front, if you've increased the quality of your ingredients, people will gladly pay more. They will gladly wait a little longer. They will. They just want to know that once they get their order, that there's a wow attached to it. It tastes
Yeah.
good. That maybe they didn't expect it. It's like, boy, this is a surprise. I had no idea the food would be that good here, and that here applies everywhere anymore.
Yeah.
It applies at the trampoline location that only has a little grab and go and they're selling and maybe they're making their own pizza because they do a lot of birthday parties, right? It's got to be special, or the brands they have available have to be meaningful and popular. Health food has certainly found a way in, and again, it's a bigger deal when I'm at a property for a few days than it is when I'm at a property for 2 hours. But at the minimum, it's a service. I mean, you've got to make sure you're meeting the needs of your guests
Yeah.
on everything. So um,
Well,
we talked
I was
about. Go ahead.
I just I was thinking you reminded me of something when I was at Morgan's Wonderland with IAAPA just a few weeks ago. We were doing our tours and they were talking about the food and how they used to try and have healthy options
Yeah, yeah,
because when they started, they just that was their initial thought, like let's have
sure.
healthy options. But one of the things that they realized, and they still kept the healthy
Yeah,
options, but the one of the team members was telling me that they they really had to start adding a lot more treats
yeah,
and unique treats because they realized that their guests were coming there to have a treat.
yeah.
And
It,
so it's like you said, you got to have a little bit for everybody. You got to meet people. You've got to personalize it a bit. And I thought that
the,
was really, really interesting.
It really is. It's a smart comment. And by the way, and that's a conversation that I've been in 1,000 times probably about health foods, but it's growing. But I don't think the indulgent food items are going anywhere. Right.
No.
One of our longest lines for sure is the funnel cake stand, and but at the same time. Uh, we're busy everywhere, but the indulgent items aren't going anywhere. We look at, and anybody else is looking at how you do them better. Uh,
Right.
churros is a good example. I mean, we saw a lot of, I don't know, churros that you buy frozen. You cook them fresh. You warm them up. But now we have a location that just makes them fresh right in front of the guest, right from start to finish, mixing
Wow.
the batter, and yeah, and so let's make that indulgent item even better. But I've read a lot about, even it's a little above my pay grade, but the psychology of when a guest walks into the front gate of a park or attraction, all bets are off. I mean, it's just all in terms. I can justify anything because when I go home, I'm not going to have a funnel cake as an example. So
Right.
today's my day to live on the edge a little bit. And those are the items, quite honestly, that are an attraction that folks come for, and that they're searching out when they go to an attraction for sure. So
For sure. Because I grew up in Southern California, my grandfather, his favorite thing was the tiki room and the
okay,
Dole Whips
okay,
at
yeah.
Disneyland. And we still have this tradition. And if anybody watching who's been to an IAAPA event with me, they know if we're in a group, I'm like, can we please go to the tiki room first? Because that was like my grandfather's thing. We had to go to the tiki room and get a Dole Whip. And that was such a treat for our family, and it's a tradition for our family now. I've carried on with my kids, and even in groups with my colleagues, if we're at Disneyland, I'm like, come on, just give me that. I'll go anywhere else you guys want to go, but we got to go to the tiki room and get a Dole Whip first, because I can't even go there without doing that. So just to your point,
Yeah,
the food is part of the attraction. It
yeah,
becomes part of the traditions for people, because also the churro, my mom would end it. We'd end every night with a churro,
yeah.
right? At
It,
Disneyland.
not, it's true, and I mean the Dole Whip at Disney is a great example of how parks, they look for creating a signature menu item, something that I can only now you can buy Dole Whip or Dole soft serve in other places now, but Disney's the one that brought that to life really, and made it um, um, kind of a part of their own identity, quite honestly. And they sold a lot of Dole Whip at the Tiki Room. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot,
well,
a lot. But
I imagine, and they don't taste the same unless you're at the tiki room. Somehow there's
there's
some kind
somehow,
of magic with their Dole Whips. I've
yeah,
noticed.
uh, that's funny and true. It's all at the same time. So, but creating signature menu items that maybe I can only get when I go there, is one of the formulas for success, because those things have halo effects as well. At least that's my term for it. In terms of if I'm going for some food item, whatever it happens to be, well, it makes me think about food when I'm at that property, and
Yeah.
of all things. So, um, but that's a Disney and the Tiki Room and Dole Whip. That's a good example. So,
Well, and just kind of along those same lines, because I know one of the things that you've effectively helped integrate into some of these
yeah,
attractions are things like food festivals, right?
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's an
It,
interesting part of the food business that's evolving quite a lot lately.
there's, I don't know, maybe it really accelerated coming out of through and out of COVID. Because even during COVID, there were some properties, Knott's Berry Farm was one for sure, but there's a lot that could be open. We couldn't have rides open, but you could open um, food locations
Yeah.
with all the conditions that needed to be in place. Um, and so there was a lot of that occurring during that period, and accelerated it. But coming out of COVID, there's a lot of properties have added their version of a food festival, a food event. And honestly, at that point, now you've got it's a promotion, it's an attendance driver, it's a length of stay strategy. It is a huge halo effect over the fact that this location is all about food at the same time. It's less expensive than buying a new roller coaster to draw
Yeah.
people to have. You think about a park like Dollywood. I think they're festival driven. I think they've got 3 or 4 a year that each one is lasting the whole quarter, a couple months anyway. And so, yeah, food festivals have really become a way to, uh, well, to expand the marketing's promotional arsenal of how we get guests to come and how we want guests to feel about properties. A lot of I think about back in Pittsburgh, they did good God, I'm gonna embarrass myself now. But a regional menu item. I'm just drawing a blank all of a sudden. But your way to feature regional
Yeah.
foods, which also is on trend as well. Guests are looking for those uh, when you can deliver a local item, something is from that part of the country that makes it unique, and there's an attraction to that as
Yes.
well. Pierogies is what I was thinking about, I think, um, and so yeah, food festivals are really becoming oftentimes an anchor now at a lot of locations or food promotions, even if it's just a happy hour kind of
Yes.
a time frame event that never used to occur in the past, but food's being used as a way to draw. Right here in Santa Cruz, though, we've had the an annual clam chowder festival. We've had it for I should know this, but very close to 50 years, 55 oh,
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I think we just had the 47th or 8th year along that line. So they've been around for a long time as well, but in more recent years, there's been this continuum of delivering food in various and sundry ways. A lot of limited time offerings now too. We certainly do that, where you can test items. Throughout the year, just put it
Yeah,
out
well,
there. That's what,
like the boysenberry, because you were at
oh,
the IAAPA North
oh
American
yeah. Well,
Summit. The boysenberry,
how many menu items did they have? 50
I
of them,
mean,
I bet.
I don't remember, it
Yeah,
was a lot, but there were quite a few
yeah,
things that I
yeah,
never even would have considered mixing with
yeah,
boysenberry,
yeah.
like with
Right.
the brisket.
Yes, that was
The
very good,
brisket
wasn't it? Yeah,
was
yes, it was.
delicious. It was
Yeah,
delicious, and the same and then they had, like, a Chinese chopped salad with boysenberry, which was an
oh,
interesting twist because
yeah,
you're mixing different flavors and different, it was really fun,
yeah,
but you know what I found to be really dangerous, and I have not missed one in the last few years, and I hate to bring up Disney again, but it's in tandem with IAAPA.
yeah.
They have their
Epcot.
international
Uh,
festival
yeah,
at Epcot,
yeah,
the food and wine
yeah,
during IAAPA, so
yeah.
we've been staying the last, probably 4 or 5 years, however long I think. I don't know if they've always done it, but as long as I've
But,
known about
but
we
been a long time now. That's
yeah,
like an example of it's probably expanded and grown and evolved, but it's been an event for them for
for
a
a
long time.
long
Yeah,
time, and as soon as I found out about it, so,
yeah.
I mean, now I'm
And,
making that part of my tradition with my team at IAPAs to stay after so we can go walk from, country to country and experience those different foods, which
well,
is
and it's your reason to go. It
yeah, it's a
sounds like,
reason to
right?
go.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. If it was just about the other rides or attractions they have, you might not go. You wouldn't go every year in any case. So,
Yeah. I mean, don't
uh,
get me
uh,
wrong, Guardians of the Galaxy is my
oh,
favorite ride,
make
but
no mistake. Make no mistake. Yeah. Um, but that's a great example of yeah, how food and beverage has expanded. By the way, in all sorts of kind of recreational and leisure time or kind of non-traditional environments. Stadiums and arenas are the same thing. Parks
yes.
and attractions. Look at airports for crying out loud. Um, it was the last place you wanted to eat 20 years ago or pre 9/11, And now I'll go early I'll make sure I have lunch or something just to be there on
Right.
time. And it's a those environments have changed, um, and I think I used this word a bit ago, but it's really been this continuum of following, either leading and or following consumer preferences and trends, right? We
Sure.
as we as consumers have become in the last, well, more in the last decade now, last 15 years or more, we're way more food and beverage savvy and looking to explore new food items, and probably under the growth of the food channel on TV and
Sure.
all of these things, people are willing to adventure a little bit more on the food scene, and are more knowledgeable about the food scene, and are willing to experiment with, try, and pay for that opportunity as well. And
I
uh,
don't disagree. I think what's
yeah,
interesting too that you brought up is the marketing that that it brings because
absolutely.
when you mentioned the Food Network, but then we
Yeah,
look at like what's happening on social media, it's giving attractions a lot, even more to talk about. I
yep.
I like what you said about it gives people a reason to come back because you're doing something new. Maybe it's a one-time offering, and I think that that is a really cool strategy for attractions, especially
Mhm.
maybe those that are looking to figure out how to get people to come back. Because you're right,
That's
I'm the same way. I go to the airport to eat now. There's a actually my favorite in the sea terminal here at Denver is La Casitas.
okay.
Actually, you do know John from Disney, uh, John Dent.
Oh yeah,
He
for
he's
sure.
always
Yeah,
telling me they're not
yeah.
the best tamales in Denver, but I'm like, no, they are the best tamales. So we have that.
You got
I'm
that
gonna
back
bring
and
him some
forth with him.
tamales next time I see him. But because they've now set up shop in the Denver airport, and it's one of our favorite restaurants locally.
Yeah,
My husband's always like, let's leave 3 hours early so we have enough time to go to La
but-
Casitas. Because you're right,
yeah.
it's a draw for people to be able to have these good food experiences.
And
And
so, go ahead.
no, no, please,
Well, I was just going to say that into the attractions industry specifically, season pass holders or members are such
yes,
a growing piece of the attendance. And so those are folks that you want to welcome back, right? And
yes,
you can only ride the ride so many times. So coming where to dine, right, is very attainable if in fact you deliver what they're looking for. So
yeah.
yeah, knowing who your guests are, knowing what they want, giving it a shot, telling them about it,
Well,
that
I'm curious how
they'll
you
come
feel
back more
about
often.
these meal passes because
Yeah,
at our park that's local, the kids and I
yeah,
all have our meal passes. And I will say this, like there's a Friday night, we don't
yeah,
have anything to do. We'll shoot over
yeah,
there, have dinner. And you're
yep,
right, because we've ridden all the rides. I can't tell you how many times. Not and I still
yeah,
love them.
yeah.
But my kids have their favorite restaurant inside of Elitch's that they go to and eat every time.
Yeah. The meal passes have been, if there's a lot of new, if you have that, there's a lot of nuances to them of when you can use them and what's available.
Sure.
But they are value if you in fact you do that, and of course they're very successful. If um, developed and executed correctly, they're very successful, and it's really all about pricing them based on how many times you think you're going to go to Elitch, and
Right.
but then you don't go that often, and so but they're for those folks that use them, they've been great, absolutely great.
Well, what I
And that's
think
a
is
whole
really cool about it as a
yeah,
mom is just that, the kids were going, Saturday all day by
uh,
themselves, with their friends often. I mean, I'm there a lot of times, but they don't want to hang out with me.
no, 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 no,
So they're
no,
off
no,
they're off doing their thing, but at least this way, like, it's a manageable expense for a family, but what I do appreciate is there are some good options, right? There's some decent food options because
sure,
it's like you said, I'm not gonna go there and eat on Friday night if I don't know that I can get they've got a burrito bowl
yeah.
I can tolerate. I'll eat that on Friday nights, right? So the kids can play and
Well,
have a good time, And you know, at the end of the day, you pay almost twice or three times as much for the pass, but it's worth it because of the
Yeah.
convenience and what it does, especially for
That-
me as a parent. The peace of mind, I know they're going to have food, they're going to eat. The unlimited drinks is a
yeah.
huge value add. You know, I
It,
never have to
it's
worry about the kids staying hydrated.
you're calling out great examples of how food is used uh, as a value for guests for sure. Elish does a great job with all that, by the way. Yeah,
Yeah, they do.
as you well know.
Yeah,
The
I love Elitches. Well, hey, I know we're running up, bumping up against time, and there
um,
is something I wanted to talk to you about, and that
yeah,
is your book and the
yeah.
next generation of the workforce. Because, you know, that is something that, you know, you mentioned you got to be aware of all the parts of the business, and food is a part of the business that does require quite a lot of
They,
staff.
yeah, they. Well, we're a very labor intensive business, right? I don't know how AI is going to affect us in the big picture, but I
Sure,
know that we still will need hundreds of folks serving guests in various and sundry ways, right? So all of that can't won't go away. Um, I mean, you asked about my book, and it's been a number of years ago now. During a time, God darn it, probably 12, 15 years ago, when labor market was really tough, and not only that, colleagues of mine, others around the country, everybody was complaining, not only about not having enough, but more about, good God, these teens today don't,
sure,
they just don't know anything, you know, and lots of frustration and people calling off from work very casually without concern about anything other than I want to go surfing today and not work, you know, and so I just at that time went about starting to chat with this stemmed out of IAAPA. Started to chat with just all sorts of operators around the country, and there were, with all that said, there was evidence of success. Well, you know, well, these people
sure,
here are managing a certain element this way. They changed the uniforms or let their employees wear hats from that the guests could buy, all the cool hats, not the industrial thing that we used to give them, and that was a win. And over here they were putting training online and doing scheduling online, and that was a success. And over here they reformatted their entire training program and were and understood that they needed to really educate their employees, not just train them, and could not assume that they get it, if you will.
sure,
So and so there were all these signs of success. And so I did manage to put a whole program together at that time, and it was very popular. And I was actively engaged with all over the country, speaking on the topic. And I don't know that too much has changed since then. The broad stroke, and under the sensitivity of time here, the broad stroke is you've got to look at, you have to manage young people through their eyes, not through whatever it looked like to you at that day, through your own eyes of being a teen, but through the eyes of today's teens, and at least have some patience and compassion around what that might look like different and what might be important to them, and make adjustments in the workplace and adjustments to maybe policies and procedures that inspires and motivates them to contribute at higher levels. And it's very possible to do that for sure. Um, Technology always pops up as the big difference. And, we all look at, we're on technology right now, but the younger you are, it's so much a part of your life at levels that I probably can't even understand. And at my age, I certainly know the difference as well.
sure.
That you could survive without getting on the computer or my phone, I guess. On a daily. So um, since then, I think the biggest thing that's probably changed is the because of the consistent exposure to technology and a screen, and so many young folks' social life and human connections come through digital formats. I don't think this is me thinking my own beliefs. I don't think that's doing anybody any favors. COVID kind of accelerated folks. They were isolated for a while, and that didn't help. And so, since then, I think there's a growing need to really be sensitive to the mental health of young people as well. And so, I mean, I know that we offer programs for folks that, they can get help if they need it, or we try to make sure that we're open to understanding what might be going on in somebody's life. And I say we, that's our industry now for sure. But it's a requirement because we need them candidly,
Yeah.
and but we care about them. We be in our industry is are great employers. First jobs matter in the young people's lives. There's countless stories of starting at the lifeguard, they're working the
Yep.
ride, they're sweeping in the park, or working the parking lot, or selling churros, and the next thing you know, you're the president of a park, or you found your full time pathway forward. And in fact, IAAPA has embraced that through the IAAPA Foundation, where and I sit on the board of that, as our mission is to engage young people into a career into our industry, and to make sure that they understand that we're a choice. So and not just a summer job, or a means to like get my real job.
Right.
We can be the real job. So that I mean, there's so much more I could say about working with young folks, or the things that we put together, but it's really that looking, uh, understanding what's going on in their lives,
Yeah, I
and
think that's a
yeah,
great
yeah,
a great way to open the eyes of the attraction operators,
yeah,
because I agree with you. This is one of the things that I love the most about this industry, and I have to say from my own personal experience as a young person who started in an attraction,
yeah,
this is kind of my moonshot. I didn't have a college
yeah,
degree.
yeah,
I didn't have parents who had done anything really big, and I didn't have a lot of guidance, but I did have this job where I could see an opportunity in the future. And I think if we really look at like what we can do for the next generation of people with regards to the
yeah.
jobs that we're creating for them and the opportunities, it's so huge. I love this about our industry.
We through our foundation, there's a lot. The IAPA's foundation. There is yeah, there are things in the work to make sure that we're communicating that in a
Yeah.
broad level to the young people we have even right now. So they're
Yeah.
thinking about, because you can go so many ways, right? You might be selling funnel cakes today, but I can take my technology interest, or my mechanical engineering interest, or my marketing or finance or other whatever, or culinary interest, and
Right.
find a professional pathway forward within our industry, and do that anywhere in the world. So lots of opportunities all
Yeah.
over the place. So
That's amazing.
um,
Well, Ken,
yeah.
I so appreciate you being on the show and spending so much time. I know we're bumping up on time, and you've been so generous with your time and the information that you shared today. But I want to make sure that if anyone is watching today or listening on our podcast, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you or connect with
I,
you?
yeah, I that without having anything on the screen, the simplest way is LinkedIn. I mean, that's
LinkedIn.
my only social network, and I spend a moment on there. So uh, I'm easy to find on there, just Ken Whiting, and I'm sure I'll pop right up. So
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually really love that our industry has embraced LinkedIn too, because I'm sure, like you, I've been in this industry for a long time. There was a time where I didn't know how to connect with my colleagues, and
yeah,
today,
I
we're very lucky that way.
I am not a social media guy, but over time, I built mine really around the attractions industry, and maybe food and beverage industry, hospitality in the bigger picture. And I mean, on a daily, every day, there's somebody reaching out to me about something, and from all over the world. And yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Well, of course, because you are an amazing man who's done amazing things,
Uh,
and I appreciate you
Well,
sharing your journey and your insights. And I appreciate you being on the show today. I really do. It
well,
was great to talk
thank
to you.
Yeah, thank you for saying that, and I'm grateful, one, for the time, but also for what you're doing for the industry. This is real. You're bringing on folks that are, uh, the sum total is a lot of information for those that can follow you and learn a lot. So
Hey,
thank
well,
you.
I appreciate that, and you know what? We
Yeah,
failed to mention you are the 50th guest, and we are celebrating the
yeah,
50th guest
yeah,
today. So thank
yeah.
you
Wow.
for being one of those monumental guests for me today. My team reminded me. They're like, "Remember, he's the 50th guest," and you reminded me before we
Yeah,
came on here. So
yeah.
that's really neat. So thank you for sharing that with me today.
Very fun. Well, it's been my pleasure to be a part of this. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks for being here.
Okay. All right. I'm out.
All right, guys, that was a great show with somebody that I think everybody needs to hear from or listen to, and we can all learn from. Really, I know I learned a lot today, and I say this all the time, but like I feel like my brain is getting bigger because I've been able to sit with 50 of the most incredible people in this industry and have conversations with them about their careers, what they're doing, the insights that they have. And I do hope that that's something that you also get from this show. Maybe your brain's going to expand and get bigger like mine because you're watching. So I do want to thank you for watching. I want to thank the team who helps us put together this show and for all the guests that have been on here. It's such a I'm so excited that we've hit the 50th guest today. That's just an incredible accomplishment for both me and my team, but also I couldn't have done this without these amazing guests. So I really want to thank you for being here with me today, for being a part of the conversation, and for continuing on your professional journey of getting better at what you do. We know that information like this can help parks thrive and create better experiences for our guests. And that's really the end goal is massive success in this industry means happy guests and happy people. So this is just part of that conversation that we need to be having. And I'm really grateful to Ken for being here today. And this show would not be possible without our sponsors, Gatemaster Technology. And I hope that you will visit them today at www.gatemaster.com and find out more about how you can have integrated technology that helps with your guest experience and maybe even helps your team. We've talked a lot about on this show how your tech stack says a lot about how you feel about your guests and your team members. And I think that a big part of that is the work that has to be done in order for it to be efficient. And we can certainly help you with some of that. And even if you aren't looking at making the switch, we also have um, our performance coaching where we just help you strategize about how you can make more money with your existing system. So feel free to reach out to us if that's something that we can help you with. So thank you again for being a viewer, a listener. If you're listening on the podcast, be sure to leave us a comment. If you're listening live, we appreciate the comments. And we also, if you're listening on a replay, hashtag replay, so we know you're here. You were here. We'd love to celebrate you and know that you were here. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you on the next live with Sondra. Take care.